Breaking news. Nnamdi Kanu in court today, and what happened in court as federal government in Abuja struck out 50 billion suit filed by Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wonderful people, also freedom all over the world. Wherever you're joining us from today, you're highly welcome to this wonderful YouTube channel. Make sure you share this video to as many groups, to as many platforms as possible. The news in detail. Justice Nyang Ekpo, in a ruling, struck out the suit for lack of diligent prosecution. When the matter was called on Thursday, neither Nnamdi Kanu nor the federal government was represented by any lawyer. Justice Ekpo observed that in the last adjourned day, while no lawyer was in court for the IPOB leader, the federal government was represented in court by a counsel. The judge, who said that the case had taken 3 adjournments due to no representation, consequently struck out the case. Reports that Nnamdi Kanu has sued the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Attorney General of the Federation AGF as first and second defendant in the suit mark FAC/ABJ/CS/462/2022. Nnamdi Kanu, who sued the defendant over allegation bordering on violation of his right, alleged that he was kidnapped from Kenya and brought back to Nigeria to stand trial. It is not a matter of being alleged. We know the reality about that. That is why we don't use alleged in that particular talks on Nnamdi Kanu, because he was actually abducted. Nnamdi Kanu was abducted. Nnamdi Kanu was abducted, and we will say it over and over again. That is the truth of the matter. So no matter how they try to paint it, the truth is that Nnamdi Kanu was abducted in Kenya. And even Kenya itself are beginning, to see reason why they have to call out the zoo government concerning the abduction of Nnamdi Kanu. We continue with the news. He wants the court to determine whether the way and manner in which the plaintiff was abducted in Kenya and extraordinary rendition to Nigeria is consistent with the law. Specifically, he cited the provisions of Article 12(4) of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, Ratification and Enforcement Act, Cap A9 laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, and Article/Part 5A of the African Charters and Principles and Guidelines on Human and People's Rights while countering terrorism in Africa. Nnamdi Kanu also wants the court to determine whether by the operation of Section 15 of the Extradition Act, Cap E25 laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, the plaintiff can be competently or legally tried for offenses stated in counts 1 to 14 of the 15-count amended charges. He said, the counts are not the offenses for which he was surrendered or extraordinary rendition to Nigeria. In the originated summons, the IPOB leader is seeking 11 relief, including an order for his release from Department of State Services DSS custody. He is also seeking an order restraining the defendant from taking any further step to prosecute him over criminal charge number FAC/ABJ/CR/383/2015, currently pending before a sister court presided over by Justice Binta Yako. Kanu also asked the court to award the sum of 100 million naira to him as the cause of his action. Now, the question I actually want to ask, is I think Nnamdi Kanu has won over 7 cases against the zoo, in which the court awarded him with some money. Now, the big question is, what have the court actually done in making sure that these that the law actually takes place? What have they done on the issue of Nnamdi Kanu? It is not about, ruling in his favor. After ruling in his favor, just the same way they discharged and acquitted him, yet the DSS, in their lawlessness, continue to hold him. So what are we actually doing? Why is the law not taking his way into the zoo? Especially when it comes to the case of only Nnamdi Kanu. So these are the things we actually need to check out. Now, I'm going to be dropping more videos on that, for more clarification on how the court's hearing went. And also, I'll be dropping a critical video on Mazi Simon Ekpa. It's actually a very brief one, a very, very brief video of Mazi Simon Ekpa, the current situation on ground, and what the United States government, are about to do concerning him. Please enjoy this video and make sure, or maybe I'll be dropping it in my next video. So watch out for that video. It will be talking about Mazi Simon Ekpa and the United States government on their plans, to come into the whole issue. Enjoy this one.
50 breaking news. Court strikes out Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's 50 billion naira case against Nigeria in favor of the federal government of the zoo. Hear the news in details. Wonderful people of Biafra, lovers of freedom all over the world, you are welcome once again to Biafra Unite channel /television this very moment. Today is the 10th of April 2025, and I have breaking information for every one of you listening to my voice right now from wherever you are all over the world. Dear friends and lovers of freedom, I want you to pay very good attention to this very news, because it's very, very important, I can assure you, my people. The court of the Zoological Republic of Animal Kingdom, Nigeria, has struck out Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's case against the federal government of the zoo, seeking 50 billion naira compensation. We are going to read the news in details right now, but before then, I want you to look at the number on your screen, which is written on the headline. Inquiry number for Finland protest for the release of Mazi Simon Ekpa. The number is there. +358 4024 36561. This number is for those who will be attending the protests in Finland on the 9th of May 2025 for the release of Mazi Simon Ekpa, the Biafran Prime Minister. Wherever you are all over the world, if you want to join the group for this very protest, kindly WhatsApp this very number. You want to make any inquiry for those who will be booking hotel reservation or whatsoever you want to know concerning this very all-important protest for the release of our Prime Minister, kindly contact this very number on your screen as we continue with this very latest development here in Biafra land and of course in the Zoological Republic of Animal Kingdom, Nigeria. As you can see on your screen, we will be reading this very news from Vanguard News Nigeria as court strikes out Nnamdi Kanu's 50 billion naira suit against the federal government of the zoo. By the way, what do you expect? You see, we are going to analyze this very news properly. I will utilize the time to properly analyze this news, because there are other pending cases of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, especially the ones instituted by Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and his legal team against the zoo. In the past, we know that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has won several cases against the zoo, including those that, ordered the zoo government to pay Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, fines, and of course apologize to him for the way he was kidnapped in Kenya, brutally beaten, and of course extraordinarily rendition to the zoo. But I want to let you know All those monies awarded to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu by the courts of the zoo, none of them has been paid. Now, let us continue reading. The Federal High Court in Abuja on Thursday today struck out a 50 billion naira suit filed by Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the Indigenous People of Biafra (IPOB), against the federal government of the zoo. Justice Enyange Ekwo, in a ruling, struck out the suit for lack of diligent prosecution. When the matter was called on Thursday, neither Kanu nor the federal government was represented by any lawyer. Justice Ekwo observed that in the last adjournment day, while no lawyer was in court for the IPOB lawyer, the federal government was represented in court by a counsel. The judge, who said that the case had taken 3 adjournments due to no representation, consequently struck out the case. The news agency of Nigeria, NAN, reported that Kanu had sued the federal government of the zoo, Nigeria, and Attorney General of the Federation, AGF, as first and second defendants in the suit marked FHC/ABJ/CS/462/2022. Kanu, who sued the defendants over allegations bordering on violation of his rights, alleged that he was kidnapped from Kenya and brought back to Nigeria to stand trial. This was a very big case. In fact, I wonder why there was no representation to represent Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Because this was a big case. This was the case of extraordinary rendition. This was the case of that very word spoken by Barrister Aloye Ejimako, the legal luminary, in the person of Barrister Aloye Ejimako in the year 2021, that what happened to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was not extradition, but extraordinary rendition, which bars Nigeria to try Mazi Nnamdi Kanu in any court of competent jurisdiction within the Nigerian territory. So I wonder why there was no representation, especially by Aloye Ejimako, because he is the one that instituted this very case. In fact, I may not be sure about that, but he is the one that mentioned that very word, extraordinary rendition. That one I am 100% sure. So it beats my imagination for the 3 times in a row that nobody represented Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, then which moves the judge to strike out the case. In fact, it's shocking. It's shocking, because this very case, had Mazi Nnamdi Kanu won this case of kidnap and extraordinary rendition, it would also, record another landmark win for Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, because this case was neglected, but it's actually a big case. You understand? It's actually a big case. Anyway, the legal team knows the best. I don't know why they neglected it. Maybe they are pursuing something bigger and greater than this. I don't know. So, but I'm just talking based on my own, idea and opinion. So they know better than me, because I am not a lawyer. Neither am I working with the legal team to represent Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. So don't take my word for anything. I am not here to malice anybody. I love what the legal team is doing. He wants the court to determine whether the way and manner in which the plaintiff was abducted in Kenya and extraordinarily renditioned. Have you now seen my same word? To be honest with you, I haven't read this very news till this point, until this very second that we are reading it together. But I already know the case. You understand? I already know the case because I've been following it up since 2022. So now let's continue. He wants the court to determine whether the way and manner in which the plaintiff was abducted in Kenya and the extraordinarily rendition to the zoo called Nigeria is consistent with extant laws, which is not. I still wonder why this case was, neglected. I don't know. Maybe Barrister Aloye Ejimako has to grant, a short or brief interview to explain why. Because to me, to my own opinion, this was a big case. Honestly speaking, it was. Especially, He cited the provisions of Article 12.4 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, Ratification and Enforcement, Act Cap A9 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and Article Part 5A of the African Charter's Principles and Guidelines on Human and People's Rights while countering terrorism in Africa. Kanu also wants the court to determine whether by the operation of Section 15 of the Extradition Act Cap, E25 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, the plaintiff can be competently/legally tried for offenses stated in counts 1 to 14 of the 15-count amended charges. Okay. He said the counts are not the offenses for which he was surrendered or extraordinarily renditioned to Nigeria. In the originating summons, the IPOB leader is seeking a level reliefs, including an order for his release from Department of State Services DSS custody. Anyways, remember that even as biased, corrupt as Binta Nyako, remember she also ordered the release of Nnamdi Kanu, not the release, sorry, the transfer of Nnamdi Kanu from the DSS custody to Kuje prison. Remember that she did it, but it was neglected by the federal government of the zoo, led by the impost, or should I say, led by the then Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami. Don't tell me anything about Buhari. Now, he is also seeking an order restraining the defendants from taking any further step to prosecute him over criminal charge number FHC/ABJ/CR/383/2015, currently pending before a sister court presided over by Justice Binta Nyako, a criminal. Maybe these are one of the things that made them, neglected the case, because Binta Nyako is no longer in charge of the case. I'm just saying, remember, I am not working with the legal team of Nnamdi Kanu because I am not a lawyer. Kanu also asked the court to award the sum of 100 million to him as the cost of his action. But in a notice of preliminary objection dated June 6, 2022, but filed June 27, 2022, the federal government and AGF prayed the court to dismiss the suit, describing it as an abuse of court process. Giving one ground of argument, the defendant argued that Kanu had filed an earlier suit with similar facts before a federal high court in Umuahia, which he won. Remember, he won that case. But today, there is no any history or news that federal government of the zoo pay that very money. Are you even talking about apologizing to Nnamdi Kanu when they are still holding him in a solitary confinement? Umuahia Division, in suit number FHC/UM/CS/30/2022, they further argue that the two defendants were parties in the suit. Maybe this could be the reason. Now, in conclusion, according to the defendants, this renders this suit as an abuse of court process that deprived the court of the jurisdiction to entertain the instant suit. NAN earlier reported that Aloye Jimako had in one of the proceedings told Justice Ekwo that he had filed a notice for a change of counsel. Jimako told the court that he will be taking over the case from Chief Michael Zekome's son, who filed the suit on April 7, 2022. Now, I don't think I have any other thing to add here because it is very, very simple and very open, as the news has already analyzed itself. So thank you, my people. To salo no more zia and make it go viral.